Hello, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Japan. Now we're still testing out this China situation. I want to see if we're going to have a significant change once we take this capital and this capital. If we don't have the change and be able to seize the coast, and then we'll see how much ICs, etc. it gives to us, whether we'll continue this playthrough from this point. Last episode is also part of this, meaning we may jump back to an earlier saved game before giving up territory to Republic of China-Nanjing. So not the end of the playthrough or anything like that, but just the end of things that are sort of this way with the playthrough. So we are pushing, and I went in just because we may continue through all of this if it works out as I would like. I did deploy a bunch of units and things. Thought I gave them an order to go something rebase. Oh, we need to go faster, that's why. And they're particularly slow. Let's slow it up just a little bit more. I'm going to try to keep this from going too long like it did last time. Belgium is mobilizing. Why is Belgium mobilizing? Oh. Did Germany kick this whole thing off? Germany is an Axis member. No, it isn't at war with anybody. But Poland is also a member of the Allies now. Okay. Okay, nav tactics have advanced. Right now I sort of give this a 50-50 whether we're going to continue this version of the playthrough, but I don't know. Okay, they're running out of supplies already or waiting for fuel. Okay. You come down here. We should be sending supplies straight. No, we're not sending supplies straight into Shanghai. We should be sending supplies into Shanghai. Okay, yeah, we might as well go out of Tokyo so the places aren't that far away. Why am I not seeing? Oh no, it's not Shanghai. Shanghai's up around the corner. That starts with a G in this spelling, but I would Canton or whatever. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the other problem, is why this isn't. I don't maybe like doing this so much. I can't send supplies anywhere because these are all now Chinese. This is one of the fatal flaws with Hearts of Iron 3, is I can't send supplies to China. And these guys here, we can air supply into you now, but these guys aren't tracking through supplies well. Yeah, that's another problem with all of this BS. Okay, infiltration tactics. And we're gonna let that continue. Like I said in the last episode, we're going to have to really go in and look at our Uber generals and redo the command structure, and I just like created this new armor outfit. And the general's okay, but man, we could put a better one in. He's got a battle commander for an HQ. He's got specialized light infantry with his regular armor. That's a regular armor unit, not a light armor or infantry tank. So, okay, twin engine airframe research has advanced. Very good, and I'm guessing it's grayed out. Yes, okay. Well, let's jump over to here because we want good fighters. I don't think we can effectively make all of our fighters carrier-based zeros technically, so I mean we could do that, but it just in the practical / expense side of things, I don't think that's a real doable option. These guys are all pushing here. These guys are all pushing into there. So once we get this, I think this will go down. And then once we get here, we're going to be pushing into here. Okay, good. You're here, so you come to here and you go to there and you move to here. Block their advances wherever they thought they were going to go. I guess we will speed this up. That's mostly what we're doing, is waiting for these guys to march into here. Okay, I want to give this to this one. There we go. I really want to try out the naval battles. This with the Americans. Snow eases off. Netherlands is mobilizing. Okay, we've got high popularity. Very good. That's an improvement. Duke of York is launched. Fine. Yeah. We've got the money and the supplies. That's part of the reason why we've been trying to get more money, just to be able to afford things like that. Better HQs, which really do help. And the Anson and the Howe. I have ground crew training, very good. That gets that up there, and we'll move it over to attack ground crew. Mountain unit training. Yes, good. We're going to let that one go. Now, another thing I'm sitting here thinking, and I want to do now while I'm remembering, build some more landing craft. We have more control over things in several ways in Hearts of Iron 4. And I want to be ready for even better. You know, I don't know. Like, and I know to a degree it is proselytizing for Hearts of Iron 4, but to a degree it's also my frustration with Hearts of Iron 4. It's part of the reason we're still playing this, guys, as you well know. Not that this is a bad game, but in my last playthrough, and part of it, I think, in some incidents was my fault in that I had some of the naval units check not to engage. So I had deployed them to an area, but they were sort of told not to engage the Americans. Either I had to check to do that, or they had sort of done that because they had been sent back to repair or something like that, some of the vessels. So I was unable to invade places like Guam and Midway and the Wake early on. And that definitely affected things to a degree. Part of what that does is, now Johnson Island, it has an air base here. God, you know anything about Johnson Island? If I'm remembering what it is correctly, and I may be misunderstanding it, it is the barest smallest atoll, smaller than Wake and Midway, that basically is too small for an air base, or an airstrip. Now I'm guessing the reason they have this here is, and they're also really not any capability of a port either, but other than the idea that all these islands have a port, is that it was an atoll, and so it created a calm lagoon out in the ocean, so seaplanes could land and take off, and also not just land and take off, because they can do, especially flying boat types, with the bigger hulls, could do that quite easy, but have a calm place in which you could safely come next to a submarine in this particular case and refuel without bumping into it. Because I know, like, one aircraft that was operating, float plane, was operating up in the Arctic for the Germans to get refueled from a submarine, and it I think it's the submarine they bash into, or maybe it was a piece of ice or something, but as part of it, that the aircraft plane starts sinking and it can't take off because it's getting too much water, and the submarine crew rescues, they're sort of immediately there already. It was, they had already been surfaced and whatnot, so I don't remember exactly at what stage of it, but rescues the seaplane crew, because they were going to come up here, way up here somewhere, and basically what for this map would be this sea province here, to do some, because the map really isn't quite this way. If you look, the Soviet Union is really more down, like, all this extra land up here is just stretch to get to the edge. Was to come up to here, somewhere up in this type area, and try to do some reconnaissance flights down into here to see what's going on. And they needed to refuel, and because where this is the nearest airbase they controlled, they could get there, but they couldn't get to there and to wherever and to get back. I don't know just how far, just exactly where it was and whatever, but they could easily get to wherever they were and refuel from a submarine. Well, that's what they had planned for the Battle of Midway, in that the whole proposition of Midway was that the Americans weren't going to have the carriers ready. The carriers were going to be back at Pearl Harbor, and once the Midway operation started, they were going to take Midway, and the American carriers were going to rush out, and with the Japanese now controlling the land base here, they were going to rush in more aircraft, plus the aircraft from the carriers, but with their aircraft controlling here, they were going to have good reconnaissance so that they would know where the American carriers were, and so that they could launch attacks against the American carriers, and the American carriers wouldn't know where the Japanese carriers were, because the Americans wouldn't have good reconnaissance, because they no longer had Midway and they had already lost Wake Island. And one of the Japanese wargame plans leading up to Midway has the Japanese fleet getting sunk by the American fleet, but it was dismissed. Well, no, they won't know we're coming. They won't be prepared. They won't be in the area. So forget that option. Oh, okay. So the Japanese planning staff, or elements thereof, shows just how Yamamoto's plan can be sunk, literally, by sinking the ships. And that what if the American carriers sort of show up on the flank of the operation and come in, and this could be a disaster, and we need to take precaution. No. We have to dismiss results that don't meet our bias of expectations. So we need to war game this as if we're going to win, to show that we've done our due diligence, so we know how to win this. Of course, that's what the Americans happen, and the Americans sort of set the trap in that they know that the Japanese are coming. They try to make it seem like it's a juicy target. They particularly try to make it seem like the Americans are unprepared to deal with it, because it's to the point that the Americans know that it's coming, so they fly out a bunch of big land-based bombers to bomb the Japanese fleet, which is unsuccessful. They don't sink anything, but they do make the Japanese carriers fly around or sail around in circles, because if you've seen my War Thunder videos, you know, when you're getting bombed, you start to do evasive maneuvers, and I learned that from reading about what the Japanese were doing and other nations were doing as evasive maneuvers from air attacks. So, you know, they dismiss the results. Well, down here in Johnson Island is what they're supposed to be doing, is having a submarine here to refuel for some of the long-range air float plane types. We're going to fly up here, refuel, and reconnaissance fly over Pearl Harbor to make sure the carriers were there. Well, because the Americans sort of knew that the Japanese either had planned to do this or had sometimes did this, they were constantly surveying or surveillancing the islands, and they may have even had some lighter American ships that kept the Japanese submarines from surfacing to be able to refuel, so they had radioed out to not send in the aircraft. So they presumed that the carriers were there, and they had had some earlier report or something weeks earlier or whatever, that the carriers that were available were in Honolulu or in that's Pearl Harbor, which is outside of Honolulu, but you know what I mean here. So that's sort of how I know particularly about Johnson Island, because that was the plan as a sea-based lagoon. So that sort of means is I can use my float planes or my regular naval bombers to bomb out of here, but it's really more for a float plane only type base. Not saying that it's so bad that with enough concrete poured and enough filler and enough whatever they couldn't build air bases there, but there were none to the best of my knowledge. Again, I may be mistaken the islands, but I don't for something else, but I do believe that's sort of the story of Johnson Island. But so I couldn't invade all of and this is part of what made me go, why quit the series? And it wasn't quitting in disgust or rage. It was just, no way was I going to win that. And I know a few people were disappointed that last Japanese series ending, because I couldn't win enough, even temporary, control over some of these regions to be able to launch a naval invasion. Whether it would have succeeded or not is another question, but I couldn't. Well, here obviously you don't need to control the areas to launch the naval invasion, but I will have more control over where my ships go and what they do. Okay, artillery barrel and ammunition advance. And they will, of course, have the opportunity to send in naval air power and such to sink my invasion fleets as well, but that's what I want to do. And so my strategy is to deny them Guam, deny them the Philippines, deny them British and Indonesian and Australian and whatnot islands out here, deny them Wake and Midway and Johnson Island, and eventually deny them, hopefully before they can reinforce too much, especially since there's a second port there, but deny them Hawaii. And so I'm denying them land-based air cover out here, and a mix of my land-based air power, which would be fighters to shoot up their carrier aircraft. And now that should be more doable, because if you know, their previous carrier aircraft were uber aircraft and uber expensive, because the AI wouldn't replace them. Well, I'm trying to remember. Oh my God, that's his name, or his screen name, figured out a way to trick the AI, or somehow through some event or decision or something, to put in aircraft back onto the carrier. See, the AI, I think, will even realize that they need more carrier air groups and put them into production. And then they end up using them from land-based air bases, because the AI just, Paradox could never do it. I presume they knew that it would be a good thing to have. Would never send reinforced aircraft. So if your aircraft was damaged, we can presumably look here. Yeah. So if it's like this, they would be sending in the reinforcements to, send in reinforcements there. But they wouldn't, if they were all destroyed, they would not send in new aircraft. So that gave the player a huge advantage. So they made the aircraft stupidly expensive, but stupidly rugged, so that they wouldn't be destroyed. But they weren't, I don't think, super overpowerful. But it would just be really hard to kill. Well, that's no longer the case, I believe, now. I haven't tried it out too much. That's what we're sort of going to do now. So land-based fighters were almost useless trying to stop carrier-based fighters, or just carrier-based aircraft. It's really all the same. But now they should be good. So if I can put my land-based fighters to try to, shoot down their air, and then use my bombers, including regular bombers. They are, I think the dive bombers aren't, I think, capable of naval attacks, or maybe it's one of the other ones. But some of them really aren't capable of naval attacks. But those that are, we want to use them, because even if they're not very good at it, and what they're particularly bad at, regular bombers, is finding ships at sea to attack. But once you've got your naval bombers finding and starting to attack, I've generally seen as Germany, my regular bomber, medium, and light bombers coming into the attack and contributing to it. I don't know necessarily the point, how much they're contributing to the air battles, but they are contributing to it. So that is a good thing. Twin engine fighter prototype says advanced. Very good, and we are going to stop that, even though, yes, but that allows large caliber machine gun cannons and gun turrets. Okay, that's some of the good reasons to just do it. So large caliber machine guns, increased cost but more air attack. We want that. And there was some debate way back when as to whether you should be able to do this or this. The Americans did everything, or not everything, but most of the stuff was machine gun based with 50 caliber machine guns. Most. You got the Air Cobra that has, I don't know, a 20 millimeter, a 40 millimeter, I don't remember, sticking through, it doesn't shoot in between the propellers, it goes right through the propeller hub that the barrel sticks out. And so the Soviets really liked those for ground attack, and the rest of the Allies used them too. Did that, and some of the bigger twin engine jobs. The Americans also had cannons on some of those, but the Americans, most of the P-51 Mustang or the P-40, were all 50 caliber armed. Where a lot of people like the Germans and the Japanese, they use, shall we say, roughly 30 caliber. That 30 caliber is 7.62 millimeters. The Germans were 7.92 millimeters. The Japanese were 7.7 millimeters. But roughly in that caliber range. And even though the German caliber was slightly bigger around than the 30-06, the 30-06 was a more powerful round, to the best of my knowledge. And it also varies because there are special AP rounds, but for standard rounds, the smaller diameter had a bigger cartridge behind it than the Germans did. But so they mostly did lighter machine guns in the 30 caliber type range mixed with cannon fire. And so that's why this was sort of created, was a combo, so that if you pushed to doing that. So we're going to do large caliber machine gun / cannons. And cannons are sort of kind of defined as anything 20 millimeters and above. So they're, machine gun or auto cannons, auto firing cannons. So they go boom, 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 boom really fast when you pull the trigger, and you just have to do it once. Okay, as you can see, we've annexed the MA click, because that's basically what that is. Okay, now we've got, hopefully, and you can, yeah, you're very good shape, and so are you, and so are you. So get attacking there, capital. And let's give Chinese territory. And China wants, okay, medium bombers, that's all right. They do have a lot of ICs right now. Probably their biggest thing is a lack of technical ability to build. Oh, you can't go there, okay. We can attack there just to pin down these HQs. These guys are moving to join that attack. Okay, well, I told some of these guys to come in here. Okay, well, I guess we got enough forces, and yeah, we need to get some of these guys that looks like they would be attack from more than one province. Should be useful. But I think, well, okay, we've actually already beat that there. So I'm thinking that once we get this last holdout, we'll get seize of the coast. But even if we get that event to happen, I want to see just what territory it covers, to how many ICs it will give us, to what sort of resources it may give us. Resources aren't my biggest problem, because any resources that the Japanese ICs can't use go over to Japan as it is. So that is, a reasonable thing. Well, let's just go down to 2 more. I'm just, because I know they've already got some forces, I just think that they're going to use them poorly, and they're going to be poor quality, which I'm fine with poor quality. That the Spanish Republic wins. Oh wait a minute, is that? No, the Spanish Republic wins. That was almost not the nation. So we now have in this playthrough no nationalist Spain. How interesting. That makes an interesting and divergent German campaign, because I normally just decide to go in to take Spain out, which sort of changes the equation, because it gives me a good attack early on Gibraltar, because then you also get this, you get this into the Mediterranean cut off, and that really affects things. Okay. Range finding equipment. We can know how far away they are. Which allows us to do self-propelled. I'm going to skip that for now, because that's one of those I don't know if we're going to do. We'll do anti-aircraft ammunition. We just delayed that because we didn't expect the Chinese to have any aircraft effectively. declare war on Jiang, and that's maybe worth it to do. I don't know. What do you say, people? Not going to do it right now until I can find out what's going on with Nanjing. Because Jiang, well, we have some resources, don't know quite how much has the industrial zone appear in here. But it's probably not too much ICs or too much in the way of resources. But what it should do is, we can't really see it here, but give us commonality of borders with the Soviet Union. And keeps them from becoming a Soviet puppet. So that would be a useful thing on two fronts. One, smaller Soviet power base, but also what that does is if they're feeling threatened from us, they'll put more forces on the border there and then not here, because we already have some forces on the border, of course, here because they feel threatened by us. And if they feel threatened by us all the way over here, they'll put even more forces on the border. And so that is a way to affect the outcome on the East Front without actually joining the war. Because like I say, I don't know, and I know at least one poster, I think it was Jeff, but sorry if I'm getting who it was really thought it would be interesting to see. And as a, and I don't think he means it, you know, as a pure independent German attack or Japanese attack on the Soviet Union, but as a early coordinated attack on the Soviet Union alongside Germany's. I'm still open to the possibility of an alt series based on that, but I really want to focus on the naval front, and I just figure I would have to be focusing on too much builds of tank units, more anti-tank guns, because we can look at all, I think we'll see, you know, lots of these divisions. Okay, they have support, you know, these guys here that have some anti-tank ability, but most of my divisions don't have anti-tank guns. So what the hell is going to happen when I run into Soviet forces with tanks? Now these guys have, let's see, hard attack of only 3 and piercing attack of 4. So they're not very good at anti-tank warfare. They're better than nothing. And so if you're facing, you know, India, Burma, what likely we're to see down here, and now we can add, it's not going to have lots of anti-tank or lots of tanks to deal with. We can, once we get, now it's this one, superior firepower, we can add anti-tank brigade or units to all of our divisions, you know, just about, at least all of the main good ones. But without that, that is part of my thinking of, you know, well, yeah, just, you know, love to see that. I'm remembering what I did with Italy, and even though I had anti-tank guns fighting the Soviets, we went from, yeah, having forces up and along here to being pushed back into Turkey, and that's sort of when I called it a day because viewership was going down, and yeah, I think I could have held the Soviets at some point down here and kept them from, you know, coming into my European possessions or whatnot. But we were losing ground, and the Germans might actually eventually won that Barbarossa, or, you know, won the invasion. So yeah, but that was going to take a long time to play through, and it wasn't looking good, and so I ended it. That's what I'm expecting to happen if I go to war with the Soviets, is that we go to war and we get stuck. And now, of course, let's say the opposite. Okay, so we go to war with the Soviets, and I was just thinking, if we get stuck, and this is sort of our border, you know, somewhere along in here, because a bunch of these are impassable. You can, when I click on, well, I thought some of them were. Maybe I was wrong about that. Well, we can see here, these are impassable. They only have level 1 ice or infrastructure. So I don't know quite where, once we push into, see, I guess here is where we start getting, yeah, once we push into here, where we could draw another good defensive line, you know, a few provinces north of here, a few provinces south of Lake Baikal, we could hold that maybe. And if these guys remain neutral, I'm guessing with that there's at least this is a common border with with all that heavy industry. Though this might be too underdeveloped. It might be a level 1, we don't know. Situation. So, in a way, holding Jiang would make me not want to attack the Soviets, because I would be facing them here as well as all along here. But if they get Xinjiang, or what, Xinjiang, or because this is Shenzhen. I'm sorry. The names are very similar. The spellings are very similar, and I'm sometimes off on some of my pronunciations. But get this region out here as ours. We might just, if it goes Soviet puppet and they have access to it, that would open up their fronts to us, which also would not make it a good idea to go to war with the Soviet Union. I'm just thinking about this here. So yeah, because, you know, my expectations are war with Soviet Union is not a good thing. What would be a good thing is before the Soviet Union falls, we sort of do what the Soviet Union did to Japan, you know, after Germany fell and the Soviet Union invades Manchuria just to grab it up. Sort of like if this area becomes, yeah, we've got some garrison divisions out here, you know, and garrison brigades out here, you know, just even lighter stuff. And that's about it. And all of our tank units and everything good is all facing Germany. Then, yeah, and of course, the trinity of Leningrad, Stalingrad, and Moscow have fallen at least. Then, yeah, grabbing up some territory is good. It helps Germany win. It's good in the post-war that we can hold on to it. I'm not absolutely sure that we would, depending on how the settlement goes. But, you know, and yeah, so maybe we would do that at that point. But as a just going to war, I just don't see good things coming from it. And it would also, by like I was saying, in preparation for it, starting in mid 39 to early 40, start building a bunch of anti-tank guns to put all on my regular divisions. Excuse me, a little bit of hiccups. Is going to massively distract from my naval building program. And so it's sort of an either or, and I don't know if we can, you know, avoid the U.S. attacking us. Because, you know, what good is it if we defeat the Soviet Union if the U.S. comes into the war anyways and lands division after division in Tokyo? You know, oh yeah, we were holding, you know, holding the Baikal line, and we tied up huge amounts of Soviets, and yeah, and that made Germany win, yeah, and then at that point, the U.S. just pummels us. You know, that's sort of that's my fear. I'm not, like I say, I expect if we go in too early, we're going to have a result like the Italians. That's my expectation. But even if we are successful, it may still cause us the loss in the war. So success doesn't bring that. Okay, engineering unit training has advanced. Good. Good. That is this one. Good. And so, which allows us bridging equipment, assault engineer, and motor energy. Okay, so that, just wanted to see that. So we're going to do Let's do bridging, because that will help engineers attack and river movement. Yeah, that's what motorized engineers with help with river attack and movement, and armored engineers. So it's not looking like it's helping combined arms units, but don't know. So, but we'll do that as a thing. And like I said, we're going to keep this short. I know I've been talking some, but we have made a fair amount of progress. But we're going to end the episode here because I don't want it to have to go too long. We're just time. Then we'll get there. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around more often. And of course, I really love hearing from you. So you can talk about what you would like to see, because it's important. No point in making these videos and nobody wants to watch them. Now I've got to sort of like what I'm doing too. So it's both of us have to like what's going on. But so I do want your input, even if it goes counter to mine. And so if I know that there's some people wanting to see things, I do keep it in mind. Doesn't mean I do it, but I do keep it in mind. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.